When people ask me how good's the area, my litmus test for everyone is if you want to see how good your area is, no matter where you're at, go into any convenience store and strike up a conversation. How the convenience store clerk treats you and talks with you is a reflection on the area.
But then I came here in 1996, so obviously some of the buyers that we're helping weren't even born during that time period. I would say I've become a local.
The market in Tyler is basically turned into a buyer's market. Things are starting to sit on the MLS a little bit longer. It's a little bit different from when, the early 2020s, whenever basically the first week, if they sell over a month, it was not a very good property. Now things are starting to sit like you used to in a healthy market, 3 to 6 months. Multiple properties to choose from. Buyers are having basically their pick of the litter, and sellers are having to become more negotiable.
Yeah, the per square foot is actually going a little bit less, and homes are on the market for a little bit longer. There are some homes that get multiple offers.
They're quality homes. But the thing is that, the price per square foot has come down, but it was overly inflated from, what happened, the reaction were happening in COVID, the 2021, 2022, when people were just overpaying because they were afraid, they had FOMO. Mm-hmm. And then now things are starting to come back a little bit, not all the way, and it'll never go back all the way.
With the clients that we're working with, basically with buyers, there has been a number of things that have come through where it could be property on acreage that needs to be recertified with the county. So it needs to be in rather than two separate accounts for the county. It needs to go in as one. That was just a requirement for the actual lender itself in order for it to be appraised by that.
Right now, we are helping both buyers and sellers. We have more listings because more listings are hitting the market. Like I said, it's a buyer's market. But then again, the buyers that we are helping, we are showing them more properties than what we have in the past because they're able to take their time to actually, find the property that works for them. As like I said a few years ago, if you saw something that was similar to what you wanted, you had to jump on it. Otherwise, it was gone. So now some of the people that we're working with, we're showing them 10, 20, 30 homes to find that right one, or if one doesn't negotiate in good faith or negotiate, because they have an idea that their property is worth more than what it really is, our clients are walking away saying, hey, not only do we want the property we want, but we want the deal with it. So, that's a balancing act where as sellers, we've got to, sellers agents, we've got to be able to show them, hey, this is how you negotiate. This is, we understand here's your final price. Buyers may not choose your property right away. So we have to basically put on both hats depending on the clients that we have in front of us.
People that we're helping obviously haven't been raised here in the Tyler area, but we do have buyers that are from Tyler and those that are not from the Tyler area. So it is surprising because Chris, obviously being around, grew up here about an hour away. He's kind of the outsider.
It depends on what you mean by the Tyler area. I don't consider myself from the Tyler area because I grew up an hour and a half north of here. So I never really considered me part of the Tyler area until recently. And now when you talk to people that, especially some of the clients that we're helping, I'm more of the Tyler area than they are because they're coming up from Houston. They're coming up from Austin. They're coming in from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have clients that are coming in from out of state, and it's happening more and more and more to where, it's making it more of an exclusive club if you are from the Tyler area or Tyler proper. So, we see it to where, used to 20 years ago, if you're in a room with 25 people, 22 of them are from the Tyler area. Now that's reversed. When you get into a room with 25 people, don't be surprised if only 2 or 3 of them are from the Tyler area. So, and that's just how the population's, diversifying itself.
But then I came here in 1996. So obviously some of the buyers that we're helping weren't even born during that time period. So I would say I've become a local.
Over time.
Yeah. The new buyers, younger ones, they are educated. I'm telling you, they are a step ahead. Of course, we have adult children ourselves, and I feel like they're further along at their age. They're just very conservative about the money that they're spending or, their earnings.
The younger generation that we deal with, of course, they tend to be, better with their money. They had their life together, for the most part. But that's because those are the ones that put in value and, hey, I want to own a home. I want to do this. And there's a lot of the generation that still spends like crazy and they'll never be able to own a home because they don't put that as a priority. I think the generation is like any other generation. There's a lot of people in our generation that in their 20s and 30s, they never would have bought a home. They couldn't. They spent their money way too recklessly. But, I think every generation is the same. You have few that have their head together and they know what they want. They pretty much live within their means and they go get it. And then there's always those that don't. So, this generation, they seem like they're ahead of the game, but that's just because that's who we're dealing with, because the rest of them are out there being in their stupid 20s. Are we allowed to do anything outside of real estate?
It's better. I know.
I'm being serious.
I know. Most of our time outside of real estate is real estate because
We're managing property.
property management. I mean, that means that obviously we're going to check on property, cutting grass. Yeah.
Don't say that like you can cut grass. Not me. No, a lot of times when we're not dealing with selling, helping people buy and sell real estate, we're out managing real estate. We're taking care of properties. We're taking care of tenants. We're mowing property. We're redoing dirt. We're
Cleaning the properties, making sure that they're getting prepped for a new tenant to come in, and it's a never ending.
Basically, like I spent, last Saturday with my handyman replacing the floors of a tenant that needed, to get the old carpet out because of medical issues. So we spent that Saturday repairing, flooring, replacing with flooring. So, do we go out and do things? I had to skip tennis because of it. That sounds very bad, but no.
We go out to dinner with some former clients that we've become really good friends with. I mean,
That's about it. We don't do anything outside of real estate.
Farmer's market, it's that time of year.
That's grocery shopping. That has nothing to do with...
Yeah. We're going to go blueberry park picking.
I'm not.
We've got clients that are coming from out of state, not even from the Tyler area. First of all, we usually meet up at, a local restaurant or out on a patio and just introducing ourselves and everything like that. Just an icebreaker. Let them know a little bit about the surrounding area. What are their likes and dislikes, and
Well, after we've had conversations with people over the phone or through email for, a few weeks, trying to, get them, pinpoint a time for them to come and to visit the area, to view property. Like she said, we'll sit down and we'll meet for a lunch, a dinner, or a coffee on a patio just to get to know each other as a face-to-face. We've already gotten to know each other. But, when we show them something in Tyler, it's usually something that is of interest to them, that we've, had conversations. I'm not going to take someone to, a park that, has a good nature's walk to show them how pretty it is if they don't like being outside. That doesn't do any good. I mean, and it's just like the same thing. I'm not going to meet them for coffee if they don't drink coffee.
And you don't drink coffee.
I don't drink coffee. That's not the point. The point is that if they don't drink coffee, I'm not meeting them for coffee. If they don't, like certain things, I'm not going to put them in that area or show it to them just because I'm trying to show off the city. I'm trying to find stuff that connects to them So, they know when they live here, there's something up their alley that relates to them. And if I try to, sugarcoat it just to get them here, then they're going to be miserable. That doesn't do me any good. Doesn't do her any good. So,
Yeah, I know someone that obviously had moved from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they were very unfamiliar with Tyler. And after they had moved here and purchased a property, they just realized the town has so much diversity that basically, just the downtown, the coffee shops or breweries, they have children. So there were swim parks. I mean, just so many options, food wise, grocery stores.
well, the two things that get spoken, two things that get relayed to me the most, that they're shocked when, coming to Tyler, whether it's visiting or whether they've already moved here, when you ask them, hey, what made you choose Tyler? Two things. One, they tell you, well, I didn't realize there were so many trees, or I didn't realize that it wasn't just a flat wasteland. I thought all of Texas was the same. So they don't really understand the topography. And then once they get here, they can't get over, how green and lush and then the second thing is they don't understand how clean Tyler is compared to where they came from. And it doesn't matter where you come from. I'll put Tyler up against any city that I've visited. It's not just the cleanliness of it all, but, the lack of graffiti that they made sure that it doesn't stay up, and the trash, the street cleanings and the maintenance and the mowing. And when you drive through other towns, and then all of a sudden you're driving through Tyler and you're like, there's something different and I can't figure it out. But then when I point that out to them, the next time I see them, they're like, you know what? I noticed that and I kept paying attention and I couldn't find a dirty area. And they're driving around all town trying to find one. And the cleanliness, is probably.
And I know what you do is you go into a convenience store, and the courtesy of, the employee that's working there, they're pretty happy. I mean,
well, when people ask me, how good's the area? Now, my litmus test for everyone is, if you want to see how good your area is, no matter where you're at, if you're visiting here, go back home and try this out. Go into any convenience store and strike up a conversation. How the convenience store clerk treats you and talks with you is a reflection on the area. Because if they're going to be nice, very helpful, just, great to see you, have a good attitude, that's a direct reflection on how people treat them. So if the area doesn't treat everybody well, then they get the brunt of it and they're going to treat everybody accordingly. So that's my litmus test on whether you have a good area or not. How good are your clerks? So that's just one of the areas. The majority of people stay in Tyler or come back to Tyler because of a few reasons. One, they go off to school, and they're living in their college town, and they're like, I don't like that environment. This sucks. I don't like the way the town's dirty. I don't like the way there's no future for me, or, they miss family,
a closeness with their family. And, we see a lot of people where the grandparents used to live out of the state and they moved back because the family is having children and they want to be surrounded with them. And then all of a sudden, like Chris said, they'll go off to college and realize that's not where they want to end up. And they want to come back to the Tyler area because it's very familiar, and the industry in which they may have gotten a degree, or they may get into a family business that has already been started by a grandparent or a parent. They start working for them. We've seen this before with our own family, where they have gone off to college and then come back. So,
well, a lot of it has to do with, I grew up in a family environment where I grew up around my grandparents, around my aunt and uncles, around my parents, around my siblings. And a lot of people, when you grow up in a, tight-knit community, you grow up around your family and that's what you get used to. there are a few people who, move away from their family because it's too much and they just can't handle it. And that's fine. That's just a personality. But a lot of people, when you're raised in the environment around your parents and grandparents and siblings, that's all you know, or that's all you want. And you want that same thing for your kids, because if you don't raise your kids in that type of environment, there's no telling what's going to happen, or how they, how they're raised and how they turn out to be an adult. So if it worked well for you, then it must work well for your kids. And so you want that same chance of, them growing up to be, great people. So that's another reason why people stay.